A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to the channel once again. Well, here we are, yet again. Unofficial podiatry, pretty much for the third time this year. And man, look at how far the year itself has progressed so far. I tell you, something like this just has to end at some point. When is 2021 gonna be all over? I guess we'll never know for sure. So you know what? Let's pretty much talk about something else at this point, based on unofficial podiatry. And well, there's probably gonna be some not so well news to talk about right here, but well, in case you're not familiar with how this thing first started, then well, here it is. These are the Vibram 5 fingers Trek Ascent non-insulated variant. But I feel like I should talk a little bit about something that managed to happen within the last year or so, and it's practically preventing me from having footwear like this at all times. Well, here it goes. September, October, and November of 2020 was quite a time where I not only had a big trip going on down to Fort Myers, Florida, but I also had myself a rather nasty thing going on down in the feet. And that, of course, was a rather rancid fungal infection that I had managed to get. And you practically know me by now when it comes to fungal-related disorders because, well, this is pretty much just a big taste of what you could potentially expect me to have. But other than the typical tinea versicolor that I've had, and I've showed off like a lot, because a lot of you guys apparently don't trust in me with this kind of stuff, there's certainly been a lot of things that have happened over the course of, well, the last several months, in which that I've basically had, well, the return of most fungal-related disorders that I've previously been diagnosed with. And as a result, there's been some things happening, especially in the last year or so, that almost seemed life-threatening. But of course, I was able to have help from various doctors, specialists, and professionals in terms of how, well, I was able to get myself back on track with this kind of stuff. And of course, you know me, basically having NFG certified footwear on me at all times, 24/7, 365. But for the most part, well, some people might have, well, decided to put up some sort of things against me because apparently I'm now being told that some footwear of mine that I've had that's NFG certified apparently is causing problems. I don't really know whom to trust at this point with stuff of all sorts relating to the feet themselves. Because, well, I've put my hard-earned money towards certain things out there, and that's just simply put how I happen to be these days. But when it comes to the Vibram 5 fingers, then well, again, this is basically how this whole thing on my channel had started to begin with. Well, you know what? Because of a certain fungal-related infection in, well, a toe that I had last year, I cannot necessarily be too sure on whether to continue wearing these Vibrams themselves or basically just have them pretty much get rid of for good. Well, you know what? Even though I've fully recovered from this whole entire thing revolving that incident, and well, I've got a couple pictures on it which I'll put up right now. So you're basically seeing me in the podiatrist office before the operation, after the operation, as well as during the following meetup that we would have about 2 weeks later. In November 2020, I basically had it all cleared, so I was able to pretty much continue wearing my footwear again all the time. But for the most part, I just had to continue wearing sandals, which thankfully that's where the Lunas that I've had for a while now came in handy. So of course, that's pretty much just how that's going down right now. But in terms of how things are, well, I've not had anything like that since then. I guess it just goes to show that, well, as long as I prevent any injuries or anything of the sorts, that would indeed be very helpful in terms of being able to protect yourself against different diseases of all sorts. As wounds can be very, very susceptible to anything by this point. And I'm more than willing to accept that, well, that alone was able to cause a lot of damage. But that operation certainly was no joke. Either I had to have that nail cut out, otherwise I probably would have been suffering from gangrene and possibly extreme sepsis, which would have pretty much left me dead at some point last year, assuming if it were to progress any further than it already had been. But again, having two different injuries, one being a cut, the other being a bruise, which did indeed lead to infection over time from fungus, is certainly not something that should be taken lightly. But in terms of how, well, some footwear I've had, including these, I was practically banned from wearing these. Yeah, even after I recovered from that injury, apparently they're claiming that the Vibrams and all that good stuff, most of my footwear that I've had over the last several years, is apparently causing these problems. To that I say that's not true. I had two injuries, both of which led to the eventual improperly ingrown nail, and then of course the infection. Both of which of course were pretty nasty. But again, I fully recovered from all of this, so I probably won't have to worry too much about something like that ever happening again. But in terms of how, well, wearing my Vibrams are here in the present, here in, well, this past spring and summer, I have not necessarily worn these as often as I used to. I suppose it's probably because there is indeed some paranoia about all of this potentially happening again, and well, I guess I can't really go too far, but to admit that maybe sometimes some footwear may not be the best possible option, but these are indeed things that I have paid for with some pretty good money. After all, when I first picked these up back in June 2018, along with my first pair of Altras, this was only 54 bucks. Yeah, 54 bucks for a pair of Vibram Trek Ascent 5-finger shoes. And well, in all honesties, I feel like that since then I've really uplifted myself and really pushed myself to go forward with as many opportunities as I could possibly go through and pretty much create. But once again, in terms of how the Vibram 5-fingers are going to be around here today, well, let's just say that they're not, unfortunately. As tough of a decision as this pretty much is, it's probably got to be done for the best of everything that's going around so far. So, unfortunately, as much as I like these and as much as they seem to really help me out there in the wilderness, and likewise, the many videos and vlogs that I have taken with these Vibrams and all that are probably not really worth my time as much as they used to be, simply because of last year's incident and surgical operation that I've had to have done just so my life could be saved from potential threatening auras like gangrene and sepsis. So I feel like that it is just for the best, and as a result, these Vibrams are going to be going up on sale as an eBay item under the username jnowak80. And I will leave a link behind in the description box below, so this way you can take a look at this exact listing and probably post an offer of some sorts if you so chose to do so. And well, that's pretty much all I've got to put together based on this whole entire thing itself. But just because the Vibrams are going to be going away at some point does not necessarily mean that unofficial podiatry is going to be going away. I wouldn't really count on that. But the listing, again, is up on eBay. jnowak80 is the username that you're looking for when it comes to placing an offer on these exact Vibram 5-finger shoes, Trek Ascent non-insulated variants. So, again, be sure to check out the listing, and more importantly, be sure to, well, put up a good offer. Because, well, it's probably time for me to move on from a lot of this kind of stuff. But again, I will be back on Unofficial Podiatry pretty soon, hopefully. I probably will want to make this a monthly thing from this point going forward, and not something that I do every once in a while, which would probably not be the best idea possible in any other way. So again, there will be a lot of new content that I'll have available, including Hot Wheels Hilarity DIY and, well, many other things along the line. But if you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.